Coach, so good to see you again. How's everything going? Going well? Finished up OTAs today. Anything high level that came out of here you're like, man, we wish we would have done this better, or we did this really, really well?
Well, I think it was more of a learning process.
Sure.
It was a great experience because I think probably the biggest thing, like when we started talking about more than anything else initially was, the way we do things is going to change.
Yeah.
The way we practice, the periods, all that type of stuff. So there's a lot of new things for our guys, and we challenge them to adapt and to grow. And that's one of the things I'm really happy about more than anything else is just really how they changed, how they adapted, how they grew, how they learned.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of new stuff, especially on the offensive side.
Sure.
So that was a big deal.
Can you talk some about that change? Obviously, the practice structure was different.
Right.
How was that for you? Because I know that's probably a little bit of a departure than what you've done.
It is. I've been doing the same thing for 12 years. And when I sat down and I interviewed Eric Bieniemy, one of the things that we talked about was change.
Sure.
And I didn't disagree. I really didn't. I really thought that there was a lot of things that we could do better, a lot of things we could do differently. And just listening to him and just kind of trying to incorporate some of the things that he had done in the past,
Sure.
I think has really helped us. I think the big thing more than anything else is I really do think our guys have adapted.
Sure. Absolutely. And so did that give you any anxiety when that change happened? Because I know for me as a player, any little change was always a big deal, but you're a better man than me, looks like.
No, I just think it was time.
Yeah.
Because one thing that has happened is you do get comfortable.
Yeah.
And this should happen, that's going to happen, but now all of a sudden it's a little different. It's like, okay, we've got to challenge ourselves here, we've got to challenge ourselves there, we've got to adjust to that, adapt to that.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, especially for this group. It's a young group of guys.
Sure.
It really is. I mean, we look at the age of it, we've got some key veterans in key positions.
Yeah.
But the young guys, I think that really challenged the veterans to adapt. For the young guys, hey, this is going to be business as usual.
Sure. And you mentioned EB as being kind of a big part of that catalyst.
Yep.
Obviously a dynamic personality, energetic guy, attention to detail. How has his impact been on this young team, like you were talking about?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that, and I said this, when we hired him, we brought him in as the offensive coordinator, assistant head coach. And one of the things I wanted to do was pass over to him some of the scheduling and some of the scripting and practice schedules as well. And he adapted it very quickly, and we sat down and talked about, hey, why do you want to do this? How is this going to fit what you're doing? Because one thing I've always done is I've always deferred to the coordinators as to how they see how they want to.
Interesting.
I mean, I could map it out and say, this is what I want. But for them, they're the ones that say, hey, Coach, we want to install this way. We want to do this period instead. These are some things I want to emphasize. So allowing him to do that and give him the freedom to do that, I think has really helped him in terms of his personal growth, but also the growth of our offense. And that thing that I've learned more than anything else is defenses react to what the offenses do.
Interesting. And you talk about kind of developing coaches. Is that part of that process, is kind of giving him the foundation for maybe something more in his career?
Yeah, I believe so. And I believe he handled it very, very well. He really did. And, it's interesting because we both worked under the same guy in Andy Reid.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of things that he talked about doing are some of the things that I did when I was with Coach Reid the first time.
Oh, that's fantastic. And so another thing that he brought here was like this West Coast terminology. And I remember talking to you about that Norv Turner offense last year, and you were so dialed in on the terminology and the formations. How has been learning a new offense been for you?
It's been a little bit of a challenge just because, again, it's all the, and this, concepts are all the same.
Yes, right.
It's just what are you calling the concept? Andy had a thing that, Rattler, well, that's the 87 combination.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
You're kind of bilingual now, kind of working it too.
I'm still learning. I got a lot to learn, just like the players, there's a lot to learn. You got to study it, you got to work on it. But you're right. It is about adapting and adjusting.
And then from that offense, from that Norv Turner offense to this, what are some of the biggest differences you think that give you an advantage?
Well, I think one of the things is that we're going to be more about play calling, the way that the plays are called. Because when you watch Eric, one of the things that you saw during their playoff run last year, and at least I saw, was how they got the ball into their playmakers' hands so quickly.
Yes.
How they relied so much on the underneath passing game. How they relied on just dumping the ball to the back. Stuff like that, and in space. And when you get these playmakers that we have, or at least I believe we have, in space, good things can happen.
Yeah, and a big point of kind of contention or concern for a lot of fans is the offensive line. Do you think that EB and this style of offense helps that group?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I do, because a lot more is put on the quarterback in terms of helping to recognize, and the center. Those two guys will do a lot more And I think we've got some really smart guys there at both positions, both quarterback and center.
Awesome. So we talked a lot about EB, but Jack Del Rio had some really nice additions on the back end there, right? A lot of stuff going on there. How have those new additions been, and how happy is Jack now in these meetings?
Oh, Jack's fired up. Are you kidding? I mean, he is. He's happy as a pig in slop. I mean, the beautiful thing about Jack, though, is, and again, having a veteran guy like Jack who's done it and had success that he's had as not just a coordinator but as a head coach, things come very easily for him. And I think the players really trust in him.
Okay.
Last year we really saw it. We came in, we talked about it. OTAs, mini camps, we were doing things different.
Yeah.
He came out with some different ideas in terms of coverage philosophies, some different types of blitzes and pressures, and those things really the players gravitated to, and we saw the results.
Yeah.
Top 5 in almost a lot of categories of defense last year. So we saw the growth and we saw the development. Coming into this year, now it's about refining and retooling, but also adding a couple of key components. We went out, drafted a couple of young DBs in the first 2 rounds, and they are really assimilating very well to what we do.
It seems like they've fallen in, kind of like true pros, like you talked about in the draft process, guys who love football, guys that are dialed in. That's great. So obviously going to a little bit of a break here now. What would you do if you were a player during this period? I know as a coach you got a lot of stuff on your plate. As a player, how would you treat this period?
Well, the biggest thing we just talked to the guys as we broke down and let them go was, guys, let's focus in on what we did. Remember what we did, recall what we did, and worked on it. Let's don't forsake everything that we learned in these last few weeks to come back and we're fat and out of shape. We can't have that. What we've got to do is stay in shape and just be ready to roll.
Awesome. Well, Coach, enjoy the break, and always a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks
Thank you.
man.